What is up, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Batter's Eye podcast. I'm Aiden here, and I have a co-host and a guest, so I'll start with Max. Introduce yourself, talk a little bit about what we're going to do here.
My name is Maximus. I am from New York City. I'm very excited to be here, and I can't wait to get started.
And why don't we let our guest introduce himself and talk a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, I'm Blake Brown. I'm a professional baseball player in the Phillies minor league organization. I played college baseball at UNC Asheville in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, so just a little ways from home. But yeah, I mean that's kind of my baseball journey, I guess. I mean, we'll probably get into a little more, but that's where I've been.
Yeah, and so yeah, perfect. So that's just going to segue right into what I was going to say. Somewhat of an unconventional journey. You went to college at UNC Asheville. I'm sure a lot of people hear UNC and don't think UNC Asheville. Definitely a very, I'd say remote, more unknown college, but I've seen, obviously it's worked for some people like you, and then undrafted, got signed by the Phillies, and now you were killing it in the minor leagues before you tore your Achilles. So coming out of college, going into the minor leagues, what in the game changed? Like did it change speed? Like what had to change for your mindset so that you could succeed on that level compared to what it was at college?
So in college, it's very repetitive. You're able to get away with the same stuff over and over and over. I'm sure as a high school baseball player, anybody who's watching this, like you've heard your high school coach tell you, just throw fastballs down and away, down and away, down and away, right? Throw breaking balls, 2 strike counts, and you're going to get the guy out. And that's high school, and that's similar to what college is as well. At least at the level I played at, I was mid-major, lower tier mid-major college, Division I. So the competition I was playing against wasn't like your high school all-stars that you see. It was more so just like your good high school baseball players. So you're able to get away with that stuff. And once you get to pro ball, of course, I started my career in high A. So I skipped over rookie ball and low A. So I didn't get to experience like the lower levels of the minor leagues. I guess you could consider advanced A a lower level, but still the level of competition in Jersey last year was, I was pitching against guys who were 18, fresh out of high school, and I was pitching against 25-year-olds that had been in the league or been in the minors for 5 years at that point. And the real difference in minor league baseball versus like college baseball is that once you show a guy something, once you go through a lineup, you face all 9 hitters. I'm a reliever, so that very rarely happens, especially in my position, my closer. So my goal is obviously to face 3 guys, get out of the game. But even so, I'm pitching 2, 3, 4 times a week. I face, the 1, 2, 3 guy in the bottom of the 9th inning one day, and then I face him 2 days later, and I can't do the same thing I did against him the first time. Obviously, hitters have weaknesses and pitchers have strengths, but you can't always pitch to that hitter's weakness, because at the level I was at, and as you go higher, and even when I made it to Double A last year, you really see it that they make adjustments on the fly. High A hitters might make an adjustment at bat. Double A hitters might make an adjustment every 2 or 3 pitches, right? And then once you get higher than that, it's like pitch to pitch. You've got in the big leagues, you've got guys who you throw a fastball high and they swing and miss it. You throw it in the same spot back-to-back pitches, like they're going to crush it. That's just the nature of the game when you get that good, right? So the biggest difference, between college and professional baseball is just the consistency of hitters and their capability to adjust. That's what I saw, at least.
Yeah, Max, you want to say anything? Touch up on that?
That's like I totally see how the competition level is completely different. I actually so I play in kind of like a weaker high school division. I actually just played in my championship game yesterday, and we actually won. It's a pretty good game. But then I play against kids like in travel ball. I'm playing summer ball, and I'm getting rocked out there compared to I'm dominating in this high school league. So I have a question for you. Like, how do you like did your mindset change when you went to the minor leagues compared to when you're dominating in college?
Yeah, I wouldn't consider my college career dominant, but I did always throw hard, so that helped. But so when I got to professional baseball, obviously there was that almost a year and a half of the whole COVID season, because the college baseball was ended the first week in March, my senior season in 2020, and obviously with the shortened 5-round draft, that kind of hurt some of the guys who were free agents that probably would have heard their name called in a normal draft length.
Yeah.
And getting to professional baseball after that full year and a half, because I was in like a training mindset, I guess you could say. I'd spent that time getting myself prepared to play professional baseball, and when you get to actual competition in pro ball, it's a lot less about showing people how good you are, I guess, because in college, in your draft years, you're trying to win, but you've got something you're playing for. You're playing for yourself to get to professional baseball, right? And not always the case. Like, you're not out there on the mound thinking, I don't really care if my team wins or loses. It's just, you're out there. I have to perform well in order to get where I want to be, and that's kind of sitting on the back of your mind like the entire time. Whereas once you get to pro ball, it's less about impressing people and it's more about consistency, right? And that was the big thing for me, is instead of going out there, and I started the season off, I had an okay start to the season last year. I think at the halfway point, I had like a 4.5, 4.6 ERA. So it wasn't terrible, but it obviously could have been better. And after the All-Star break, I kind of flipped the mindset to, okay, what happens if I just go out here and just focus on performing, right? I'm not worried about who's in the stands. I'm not worried about the brass that's up there watching, the prospects that are in high A that, I'm like, okay, if I throw well while they're here, great. Like that's a good check on my resume page for them. But once I started thinking, let's just go out there and just get guys out. Who cares if you get promoted? If I do as well as I can and I don't get promoted, that's not my fault, right? I can't control what the front office is going to do. I can't control if the front office likes me on the mound. I can't control if they want me to pitch in the big leagues. I can't control if they want me to just be a pawn in the minor leagues and take up a spot on a roster, because that is necessary. So if I go out, so that was the big change for me when I got to professional baseball, was just going out there and just trying to get guys out, right?
Yeah.
And letting everything else fall into place.
Yeah. And I mean, it seems that last year, just looking at the splits monthly, you started off in high A last year and you ended up double A, and then you pitched one more game in high A at the end of the year. But it started off where it was like, you could tell what you're saying, hitters adjust, and you have that adjustment period as well, especially after the COVID season. And then you dialed it in, and you had a really good 3-month stretch from June to August, and then September you pitched 2 games, 3 innings, you didn't allow a run, and not even a hit. So definitely you could tell that at the end something clicked in the mindset change. And talk about what went through is like, I don't want to say you had a rough month of May, because if I was in your spot, I would probably be, I'd be out after 3 batters. They'd hit 3 home runs off of me. But what changed? Like, what adjustments did you need to make, and what was your pitching coach and telling you, like, what's got to happen? What can you do better?
So to start the season off, like I said, I was very much in that training mindset, and I throw plyo balls, I throw weighted baseballs. I'm big into like the biomechanics and the new analytical side of baseball, right?
Yeah.
So I was very concerned, and I'm not going to say concerned. How about I say it was very important to me how hard I was throwing, how much break my pitches had, how much, whatever else, how much BAA I was having on my fastball, right? Mm-hmm. That was very important to me at the beginning of the season. And I was letting that get in the way of being a pitcher, right? Performing. And once I let that go, and after the month of May and into the month of June, I started to see like, okay, it's not changing, right? My velocity is not going down. My velocity is not going up. I'm not changing on pitch profiling. Like nothing is going to be different every outing, right? It's going to be the same in May. It's going to be the same in August. Slight differences from fatigue and playing an entire season, sure, but there's no point in worrying about it, and there's no point in trying to change it while I'm in season. And that's really where it clicked, and that's really what changed was, like I said, let's just go out there and try to perform instead of worrying about all of the extra stuff, right? The stuff that doesn't matter when you're on the field. It might matter when you're off the field. If you had a good outing, you're like, yeah, go pay attention to that. But when I was on the field, I had to learn not to be thinking about the fluff, I guess you could say, the extra numbers that it doesn't matter how good they are if I'm not going to pitch well, So that was the big change.
Yeah, Matt, and so I think Max, you can relate to this as well because you're more of a pitcher than I ever was. But something that you noticed, I guess, it's so different from what I'm saying. But in the change from high school to travel ball, it's like little things that you can't correct off the field because it's not mechanical. I think that's something that it's huge. It's something that you just train, and that's what getting back into speed, and it's going to happen. Pitching city ball to travel ball, like what you're saying. I think it's so similar. I definitely can relate to that. Now something I want to talk about is what were you doing in summers to get recruited? Like, so something I ask a lot of the guys that I talk to, do you think these perfect game showcases are worth it? These, travel ball showcases where you're going, you're paying however much money it is, and in the end, you don't, it's just a gamble on yourself.
Yeah. So I personally don't think that paying to go to a showcase individually is worth it, right? You go to a perfect game, whatever, what's it called? The Super 25 or whatever. You go to pay to go go to a perfect game workout for 2 days, right? And they tell you that all these scouts are going to be there. And that's great and all. Like, yeah, if you're a guy who naturally throws the ball, if you're a freshman throwing the ball 85 to 90 miles an hour, like, yeah, go do it. Right. Like at the point that when you get to the point where you are on par with other guys who are committed, sure, I think it's a great idea. Because at that point, like if I go and I perform, I'm going to get recruited, I'm going to get a scholarship, and I'm going to be playing college baseball. But if you're a guy who's throwing, and obviously I'm using pitchers because I'm not a hitter, but it pertains to hitters as well. Like if you're out there hitting balls, you might have a high batting average, but you're hitting balls. And I know a lot of people hate like the exit velo numbers and stuff like that. But if you're hitting balls 80 miles an hour every time, when you barrel it up, like you have no business going to a showcase. You have more business getting in the weight room, getting stronger, going to a training facility, spending the $500 that you spend on that weekend is a full month of training at most places, right? Yeah. And that month of training is going to get you way, way, way more in your career and get you farther in your career than going and just playing bad in front of 25, 30 scouts. Because on the flip side of things, and I had to learn this as well when I was in high school, is if you show up at that showcase and you're not good, it hurts you, right? You may not think it does, but those coaches are there to see good players. And if your name pops up and you're like, this guy sucks, like I'm crossing his name out right then and there. And unless you do something crazy, and it's 100% possible, if you're out there throwing 75, they're not even thinking about recruiting you to their college ever, right? They're like, this kid doesn't throw hard. He might throw strikes, but he's never going to be effective because he throws the ball 75 miles an hour. But if you go, like I said, if you go out there and you're throwing harder, yeah, they're going to put you in. But if they mark your name off, they're not looking at you in the future, right? They're not looking like, hey, let's go watch John Doe throw, even though we saw him throw 2 months ago and he was 75, right? He was 75 to 77 miles an hour. Whereas if you take that month of training, you go from 75 to like 81 in that 4-week period, and depending on your age, depending on how well you pitch, things like that. I mean, everyone says 81 miles an hour is slow, but I played Division I baseball and I had guys throwing the ball 81 on my college team, right? So it's not like you can't go play college baseball throwing 80 miles an hour. It's just, it's a little tougher. But again, I still think that unless you're getting invited to these big ones, like unless you're going to like the national, the junior national, the perfect game All-American, or if you're playing for a showcase team that has training involved, so you've got teams like the Canes. I guess they used to be the Evo Shield Canes. I don't really know what they are now, but you've got the Canes, you've got like the like chain national baseball. Like they don't really do anything. And I could be completely wrong when I say this because I did not play for either of those teams, but I know people who did, and they pretty much did their own thing and then showed up at the tournaments, right, to play. And if you're paying money to play for an organization like that, I personally don't think it's worth it. But like the organization I played for, we had a training facility. We practiced 2 to 3 times a week, right? So we were working on getting better as well as paying money to go play in these showcases. And in that case, I think it's probably worth it. But definitely, I definitely don't think it's worth. I know I'm kind of rambling right now, but
Yeah.
I definitely don't think it's worth paying that $250, $300 for a weekend showcase that you're not ready for. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that guys pay so much money on this to invest in themselves, and that if it gets them into college and you don't have to pay for college for 4 years, then great. But I mean, only so many people can go there.
Yeah, I have a good follow-up question to that. Sorry. So yeah, the coincidence is my travel ball coach, Dan Palumbo, I think he actually works for the Phillies, and he's given me recommendations like, instead of going to these major showcases, maybe go to like look at the colleges you would like to go to, even if you don't play baseball, and then reach out to the coaches and see if they have any summer camps or whatever. So I'm wondering if when you're like my age, I'm a junior right now, if you attended any like more private college camps, and if that helped you more than going to these showcases.
So I attended one college camp in my high school career. When I was a freshman in high school, I went to Clemson University for a week-long camp with a friend of mine. But I was I was pretty gifted as a high school pitcher. I as a sophomore in high school, I ran it up to 95. So I never really had to do that kind of stuff. So I can't say that yes, that helped me. But I do think that what he said is a good idea. Like if you want to play baseball at wherever, you guys are from New York, so let's say somewhere up there, Rutgers University, right? Let's say you want to play baseball at Rutgers. You go visit that campus, and if you like the college as a college, like you need to make sure you keep that in mind, because if you want to go to college there, that would make your college athletics experience that much better, right? I was originally committed to ECU, and ECU was already on my radar of colleges I wanted to go to before I even understood college recruiting, college baseball. Like when I was a freshman in high school, I had no idea I knew college baseball was a thing, but it at that point it was less publicized like it is now on social media. So you didn't really know that, hey, I'm good enough to play college baseball until someone reached out to you. It wasn't I'm going to go train to be good enough to play college baseball, right? And that wasn't too long ago. I graduated high school in 2016, so that was 6 years ago now. So I do think that he's on point with that, what he told you. And I mean, what's the worst that they can do? They can say no. Hey, we don't think you're a good fit for the college or for the team, and you say okay, thanks. Or I mean, if you really want to play there, you go try to get good enough to play there. I mean, that's one of those things that you can't take it as like an ego hit whenever college coaches tell you that, because their job's on the line as well. You have to remember that their job is based around how many games they win every year. And if they're going to recruit players that aren't going to win baseball games for them, they're going to lose their job. That's their livelihood. So I think that, I think reaching out to college coaches at colleges you want to just go to is a great idea.
Yeah. Max, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
Oh yeah. Thanks for the insight on that. So for me personally, unless I work really hard, I don't think I'm going to be going Division I anytime soon. I think I do have a good chance of playing Division III baseball. Like I sit probably like in the low 80s, like 80, 81, 82 as a pitcher, and I'm a pretty decent hitter. So I was just wondering if I know you obviously haven't really had experience playing Division III baseball, but if you've known people or had some friends to play it, if they liked it or not, or what was their experience while playing Division III baseball? Because I've heard some mixed reviews. I've heard some like very positive things about it, like it's fun, like you get to really bond with your team, and it's if you love playing baseball, you should play it. But I've heard some negative things, like it's not worth it, or you should focus on academics instead.
I will never tell you not to play baseball, right? So if you have a chance to play college baseball, it's an experience you're not going to ever get back. It doesn't matter if it's Division I, Division II, Division III, JUCO, right? It really doesn't. You're going to get the college baseball experience, whether it's on in Omaha or it's in Grand Junction with the JUCO World Series, right? I think it really just comes down to what your goals are post college. Like if you just want to be a college baseball player, get a college degree, have the hey, I'm a college baseball player on your history, then yeah, I 100% think that playing Division III baseball is worth it. Like I don't have any friends that have played Division III baseball, but I also most of my friends went Division II, so I mean it's really not that much different, right? I mean, like I said, college baseball is college baseball. But if your goal is to play at a professional level post college, and that's what you want to go to college for, is to play baseball, it's not obviously you're going to college to get a degree, but I went to college to play baseball, right? I got my degree because I was playing baseball, but I wanted to be a professional baseball player. I had my eyes set on that, so I went to college for that. But some people don't. Some people go to college to play baseball because you get a scholarship, you can get free college, and you get a good time in 4 years. But if furthering your career professionally is something you think you might want to do, I personally would recommend junior college. Going to a junior college that has a good reputation for producing athletes out of there. You've got, I mean, obviously you've got like Sanjak and Walter State and McLennan and all of the big time JUCOs, but you still have other smaller JUCOs that, like we have one right near where I'm from, Catawba Valley Community College, and Pitt Community College as well. That, I mean, they're not really top 25 JUCO teams, but they still produce some insanely good athletes that go to these big time Division I schools because of the facilities and the coaching that they have there. So I think it really just depends on what your future goals are post college, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And now, so I want to touch on just a few more things before we get into kind of general talk. So right now, for those of you who don't know, you are rehabbing a torn Achilles tendon. So what's the plan right now? What's your timeline, and what are you doing to try and decrease that timeline as much as you can and just get back and be ready for whenever it may be?
Right. So it's kind of funny. I'm not really trying to decrease the timeline any. I know that sounds crazy, but for when I tore it, which was beginning of March, an Achilles rupture, rehab and recovery is 8 to 12 months on average. Obviously, you have some guys who, especially football players, who are running and they're not. And running is a very, very intensive action, but running is a natural thing for humans. So you're going to get it back pretty quickly, right? Even after an Achilles tear, whereas a pitching delivery is something completely different. So for a football player, 6 months is usually what you're thinking whenever they come back. So they would be back, if they tore it in March, they'd be back in November, or September. Sorry. But for me, it's just making sure that I'm ready to go by the end of spring training next year. So as long as I'm, like I said, 100% ready to go, and I can get stuck at an affiliate, whether it's Clearwater, Jersey, Reading, wherever it may be, just somewhere I can pitch to make sure that everyone knows, hey, I'm healthy. Hey, he's ready to go. Hey, he's back to 100%. That's really all I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And that's important. And I know that, so many players get these severe injuries and come back from it, and they're like, yeah, I'm not yourself. But recently, especially with a torn Achilles, you've seen a lot of players come back better than before. So I think it's definitely something that, good way to think about it and just have that on your mind. Now, one more thing I want to touch on. leadership and who are you off the field? Because everyone sees people who play on the field in the stands on television, but not many people see what's behind the scenes. What kind of a leader are you? You know, vocal, lead by example, or there's so many types of leaders that you can be, and how do you find that role in a clubhouse?
So I'm definitely more of a lead by example person. I'm not very vocal. I'm not going to yell at someone for not doing this, that, right? The way that I see myself as a leader is I go about my business. I do what needs to be done, and I'm not gonna beat around the bush, right? I'm not gonna be lazy with it. And I think that that just comes down to work ethic, right? And you can develop a good work ethic, and most people have one. I mean, there are people who are lazy, and I mean that is what it is. That's just who they are. But um, that for me, it's just making sure that I get in the weight room or go throw or whatever I have to do that day, making sure I'm doing it because when I get on the field and people see me perform well, they understand that hey, he did his stuff off the field. He did his stuff in the off season. That's why he's performing. Maybe if one of my teammates isn't having a great year, I mean, obviously they can ask anyone any questions or anything, but if they end the season and it wasn't how they wanted it, maybe seeing someone like me or another teammate who had a good year and they know like this guy does his stuff. He carries his bit. He does it. He gets his business done. He carries himself like he wants to be here. He does everything like he wants to be the best he can. Maybe it affects them in the offseason. Like, hey, I'll try that out. I'll go do this, or I'll go make sure I'm more on top of my schedule this offseason, and maybe have a better season next year. And there's no guarantee they will, but um, that's how I go about it, right? Like I consider myself pretty knowledgeable about things as well when it comes to newer school baseball. So I love when guys ask me questions because I know not everyone understands it, and that's okay because it is very new and it's very complicated, and some people just don't want to learn it, and that's also fine. It is perfectly fine to be a non-analytical good baseball player. I know a lot of people want to make it seem like if you don't know new school baseball terms, you're an idiot, but if you're good, you're good, right? I mean, it does come back to the fact that you had guys like Nolan Ryan and Mark McGuire and all of those guys who were pre-analytical age that were just insane and probably would have been very good in today's game, right? So I think my ability to answer questions and just be there for guys who are curious also helps with my leadership role, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a very like a big question to ask for me personally because I wish we did this interview like a little while ago. It would have been great for my school project, which I did, which was on the life of minor league baseball players. And I just want to hear your experience about the housing situations. I know the little pay and I was doing a lot of research on it, and some of these living situations are not the greatest. And I know the league has taken some steps in recent years to help improve the lives of minor league players, but I want to hear your take on it. And if you could share any of your experiences living, playing minor league baseball.
Yeah. So as you guys probably saw this offseason, the MLB mandated that MLB teams, provide housing with a kitchen and other amenities that, are necessary in daily life, right? And I think my biggest issue with the living currently is that not all of the teams, and probably not even half of the teams, are following that mandate, and it could be because it's not required until 2023 or 2024. And if that's the case, then I understand from a business standpoint why these teams are doing what they're doing. But I'm sure you guys know who MILB Advocates is. I'm sure you've seen their stuff on Instagram or Twitter, and what they're saying is coming directly from minor league baseball players, right? So all of the nitty gritty stuff, the bad living, the bad food, the terrible pay, whatever it is that they're putting out there is coming directly from the mouths of guys who are experiencing it. So Yeah, I think that there could be a better job done. I think that teams could provide us with more suitable housing for an extended period of time. I mean, we're in a place that is nowhere close to home, at least for most of us, right? I mean, I was in Jersey and I'm from North Carolina. Like that's an 8-hour drive,
Mhm.
and I don't know the area. We don't get paid enough for me to just go find a 6-month lease apartment. Um, so I am forced to live in a hotel, which is better than having to pay for my living. But it still is tough because even though we're provided food and we're provided snacks and things along those lines, some people just with their diet and what their goals are for season to maintain to gain weight, you know, you're forced to go out and spend more money on fast food because you don't have a place to cook. Whereas if I had a kitchen, I could just go to the grocery store every week, buy an extra meal for each day, and I would have a place to cook it for way, way less, probably for the same price that would cost for me to get 3 meals a week at a fast food restaurant, right? So I think that's the biggest thing. It's not the fact that we aren't living in good places. Like we're not living in rundown hotels that have cockroaches and all that mess. Like at least not the Phillies, where they have us up, and we're actually in very nice hotels. It's just some of the amenities would be useful in a minor league season. That's my biggest take on it. Like I'm not going to say that teams are doing the best they can, but I'm also not going to say that they are like trying to do the bare minimum. They're at least giving us a chance to have a living out of season, even though that there's other give and takes that could be done to make it better.
Yeah. So that was awesome. That was all I really wanted to talk about for your personal baseball experiences. Now I just have a few general things. I have some screenshots of some stuff that I saw trending, controversial. I want to hear you guys' take on it. So the Game Day MLB on Instagram posted, has Bryce Harper lived up to the hype since he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated as a 16-year-old? Now, majority of the comments said, no, he needs a ring to live up to this hype.
I think that I'm not going to say World Series are overrated, but basing a guy's career off of winning a World Series is a terrible, terrible take, right? I mean, Bryce Harper has been the best baseball player in the league for the last 3 years now. Honestly, since he got to Philadelphia, he's been insane, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter if Bryce Harper hit 3 home runs a game if your bullpen and your starting rotation gives up 4 runs a game, right? He can't win the ball game himself. And the Phillies don't do that. I mean, you have Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, like you've got guys, and Ranger Suarez, you've got guys on the staff that are just dudes, right? And you've got good guys in the bullpen, but I mean, you're not going to have a good game every game. You're going to have a game where you give up 4 runs in an inning. You're going to have a game where you go 7 innings, no runs, right? But it doesn't matter how good Bryce Harper is if no one else is performing. And I'm not saying that they're not. Like I'm not trying to say that, hey, the Phillies stink, because I don't think they do. I think we have a very, very good farm system. I think we have very good players. I just don't think anything's clicking for us currently.
Yeah.
Right. So to say that Bryce Harper is overrated is, I personally think it's a bad take. But that's my opinion.
Go ahead, Max.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. I think Bryce Harper is actually underrated because people overhate him so much currently.
I think.
And I
Go ahead.
Sorry, 1 second. Like I know T-Mobile just gave everyone a free year of MLB TV, and I just happened to turn on like the pitch before we get that game tying grand slam. And I'm not a Phillies fan myself, but I got pretty hyped watching that. And your commentators are also really great, and they
I mean,
really
Philly's
fun
a
to
great
watch.
place to play baseball. I will say, obviously, I've never been there, but from what I've heard from guys who have been there, like, if you're, I mean, they're a harsh fan base. Like that, I mean, that is what it is. If you're not playing well, they're going to let you know. But it's because the city wants to win baseball games, and I mean, that's honestly how every city should be. I mean, you've got other teams in the league that they have. They don't have any fans that show up to the game. If they win or lose, it's whatever. Like if they win a World Series, the few diehard fans are excited, but for the most part, the city is kind of like, yeah, we won a World Series. What's next, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in Philly, if you win, in 2008, when they won the World Series, it was like the city went nuts, and it'd be like that for any Philly sport. So, yeah, I don't know. That's it's just a funny take to me.
Yeah.
As a Yankee fan, you could I've seen Giancarlo Stanton hit a 120-mile-an-hour line out to the warning track and get booed because he got out. It's brutal.
Yeah.
But
It's
life
terrible.
of a player in these big cities. Yeah.
It is the life of a player. It's something you have to learn to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, I think I might, a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this, but I think Bryce Harper's MVP season when he was in Washington in 2016 might be the second best season since the turn of the century, behind Barry Bonds, who was cheating when he did it. So, like, to say that he's overrated or, hasn't lived up to the hype is ridiculous. I can't even, I hate people who even start to say it. When Max, remember we went to the Yankee game, Yankees, Phillies, every time Bryce Harper gets up, overrated. I'm like, what do you, what's the point of this? Like, he's going to hit a home run and shut all of you up. Like, that's like half the time he gets the overrated chance, something bad happens in the end. So, yeah. I mean, so we have 2 minutes left. We get a quick run through one more and then get an outro going. Albert Pujols, last season, and I think everyone who follows baseball has seen Manny Machado's tweet. Why hasn't he been getting a farewell tour? Like, does he deserve one?
I mean, I 100% think he deserves one. Yeah. I don't know why he hasn't been getting one. And it, it could be because maybe he's planning to keep playing for another 2 or 3. I mean, he's still a very viable hitter. I mean, he's into his 40s at this point, and I mean, he's still one of the better hitters in the league. Like, I mean, yeah, he's bad. He's got, like, what is he hitting right now? Like somewhere in the upper twos, right?
Yeah, something like that. I think he's like 265, 270.
Yeah, but for the type of hitter he is, and to still be hitting 275 at, in his mid or early to mid 40s, like, that's absurd, right? Like, that's an insanely insane thing. So, I think it probably does come down to the fact that some people may just not think that he's going to retire. He might want to play for a few more years, but I guess that's yet to be seen.
Yeah, I think so. I think if he is retiring, he definitely deserves one. But yes. I see we have less than a minute because Zoom will kick us out. So thank you for coming on. Appreciate you. Definitely are gonna
Thank you very much.
Keep following, have you on many more times. I'm assuming this is just the first episode of many. You want to say anything before we go?
Other than go Phils, that's all I got.
Thank you, guys. Also, shout out Baseballism for the gear. This is definitely gonna keep getting some gear from you guys and shouting you out if you send them over. And that's all I have. Batter's Eye Podcast. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.